contactless payments are forecast to increase to $1.5 trillion by 2024. They've kind of wedged their way into this with the Apple Pay functionality. They are controlling the hardware and the software. They're able to make these interactions more seamless. They're able to roll these things out much more quickly. Apple Pay is on pace to account for 10% of all global card transactions. This article goes on to say they account for 5% of global card transactions today, and by 2025 are on pace to hit 10%. From all the fees that they're earning from this, they're generating about $12 billion, almost $13 billion in revenue in Q4 of 2019. You know, they're taking a very small sliver of the transaction fees. They've partnered with the other credit card companies and, the MasterCards and the Visas that also get fees off of credit card transactions, but they've kind of wedged their way into this with the Apple Pay functionality. The broader forecast just in the United States is that contactless payments are forecast to increase to $1.5 trillion by 2024. And that's up from $180 billion roughly from this year. So there's a huge scale already here. Now, the interesting thing is that Apple Pay is only running on Apple devices. And the number of Apple devices relative to Android devices is actually much lower, right? When we look at the app stores, the amount of money spent on iOS apps and Android apps is roughly equal. But when you look at the number of iPhone shipments versus Android shipments in the United States, it's a much different story. So I think that's what's really interesting is, and we saw this in the app marketplace as well, right? And even though there's less iPhones, the demand is about equal. And that goes to the demographics of who's buying iPhones versus Androids, but I think also that user experience, the usability of it, right? Now, in the United States, the numbers here, you can see Apple's actually been steadily gaining since about 2012, where they were at about 30% market share, Android about 50% market share. Android's kind of plateaued, and Apple's kind of gained here. There's still less than 50%, Android's above 50%, but there isn't too much disparity between those numbers. It still just goes to show you the impact and penetration of Apple Pay on these devices, right? You're not hearing these kinds of numbers being reported for Android. You know, what Samsung has a Samsung Pay initiative, right? But again, because we spoke about this yesterday about Apple rolling out the ability to have one app that now works across macOS and iOS and consolidating that workflow. Because iOS and Apple, they are controlling the hardware and the software, they're able to make these interactions more seamless. They're able to roll these things out much more quickly than, say, Android, where they aren't controlling the hardware and software as closely, which is why you see Samsung doing their own payment platform and Android trying to do their own as well. It's just harder to kind of pull this all together and penetrate into these new applications of the technology as quickly. Hi, this is Alex from Winner Take All. Thanks for joining us. Hope you enjoyed the content. Feel free to leave a comment, ask us questions, and definitely make sure to join us on our next live stream.